What up, sports fans? I'm Paulo Camacho, and this is the Macho Sports Report, where I talk to you about the sports stories that matter to me, and hopefully matter to you. Alright guys, so I did another podcast with your favorite other 49ers fan, David D.K. Kim. Now, a couple of things. First, obviously this thing's going to be long. Second, the frame's kind of off. Yeah, I probably should have checked that before I started filming. So if that's too distracting for you, then I guess just listen to it? I think we had some things to say about the Niners moving forward, from their win against Atlanta to their upcoming game against Seattle. Enjoy! This is Paulo Camacho.
David D.K. Kim, they call me the heckler.
And we're here to talk about the 49ers.
Yeah, you know, it's surprising, but I thought I'd be a little bit more upset at this point. But I feel a little more hopeful, especially because of the defense and things like that. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But it's surprising how 2-7, I believe.
3-6.
Oh, thank God, 3-6. Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to be like, wait, we won more than that.
Yeah.
3-6 actually looks good, especially in the NFC West right now.
Right. Especially with 4 and 5 teams with the Rams and the Seahawks. And with the Seahawks coming up, we could find ourselves tied for second place.
And the Rams are on a downward trend right now, so.
Yeah, exactly. So let's actually start with their game from last week. The 49ers versus the Falcons in Week 9. So, you want to talk about you want to throw out some initial thoughts about that win?
You know, I mean, that win, I feel like it covered what the Niner fans were already happy about. We had a decent running game. Our defense stood tall and basically gave our offense a chance to score. And the offense managed the game and didn't turn the ball over and, you know, utilizes opportunities when it can. It still missed out a little bit, but did just enough to win. So, I mean, I feel like that's how we beat Minnesota. That's how we beat Baltimore. And the same game plan was, you know, unveiled on Falcons, who don't have a really good defense, and we took advantage of that.
And I appreciated the fact that even though we benched Colin Kaepernick, they gave Blaine Gabbert a chance to start against that particular defense. Granted, they were, 6-2 at the time.
Yeah.
But they had a pretty bad pass rush.
Yeah, and and Devontae Freeman and Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, they kind of covered up a lot of the defensive deficiencies in those wins that they had leading up to that game against the 49ers. So it wasn't like they're world beaters. They were just kind of they're probably the worst 6-2 team in the league at that moment.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about Blaine Gabbert and the way that he threw the ball and performed overall during that game.
You know, I was like a lot of 49er fans. I was scared.
So was I.
When they announced that Blaine Gabbert was starting. In fact, I just assumed that we were giving up at that point. Mm-hmm. But he proved that he is a capable NFL starting quarterback. Maybe not the top 10 pick that he was, but he's capable of leading an NFL team, on the road to victory. Mm-hmm. And he showed that he could. He can be a game manager. He can limit those turnovers and keep the offense on the field so the defense gets its rest. And, basically that's what they did.
Yeah, I think the thing about Blaine Gabbert is he is a traditional drop-back passer. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten a bad rap, obviously, with his time in Jacksonville. He never really had much of a team to begin with in Jacksonville to play with.
You know why I equate that to almost? It's almost like David Carr with the Houston Texans. Like, he was legitimately a first-round pick, but the Texans, they couldn't protect him. They couldn't really support him. He looked like garbage. And then he went, eventually, at the end of his career, to the Giants. It was a very serviceable backup. He actually showed that he had NFL talent. And he does have a ring as a backup for the Giants because he was a legitimate backup that could do what you want him to do in case Eli was tired or hurt or both. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like that, but I think Gabbert has a brighter future as a backup / whatever it is he is going to be from now on. Mm-hmm. I'm not really worried per se, but he is facing Seattle next, so that's a whole different animal. It's not just your typical team. They're going to be looking to tee off on him from the get-go.
Yeah, and that's where I think the 49ers have to worry because we still don't know what our offensive line has to offer.
That's
because,
true.
Honestly, again, weak pass rush with Atlanta they did a serviceable job protecting Gabbert. And he was able to drop back, find, read his reads, find his receivers, and do a serviceable job at quarterback. Enough to win the game.
Yeah.
It wasn't an all-world performance.
No, not by any means. By any means.
But at the same time, he did help us win.
He did. And it's encouraging to see that even with all that off time, and I saw a stat somewhere before the game against Atlanta, his last 4 QBR ratings were all under 10. And if you're wondering, the ratings from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And he was closer to 5 than 10 in those under 10 games. So, the fact that he made that leap to, even a 60 or whatever it was, that's good.
So we talked about Blaine Gabbert. Let's start talking about takeaways from that game.
The defense is improving.
Yeah, okay.
The running game, even though it's depleted, it can still be there.
It's serviceable. And the thing is, I'm not sure it's going to be a strength moving forward as long as Carlos Hyde is out.
That's true. Carlos Hyde is the workhorse. The fact that, they signed Pierre Thomas and let him go after a week, and, they signed, I think it was a candidate. He chose to come to the Niners over the Patriots. People wondering why. It's about playing time, really, and consistent playing time. But, you cut Jared Hayne, he clears waivers, he goes back on the practice squad, you got a practice squad guy out there, Reggie Bush is injured. It's almost as if you're kind of picking names out of a hat, and seeing how they'll do, which goes to how good the offensive line is or could be or needs to be.
Right.
Because, we could be back there, but if the line's getting a surge, you're still going to get 3 to 4 yards before you're touched. And that's all you really need is that there's about 3.5 yard average to get a first down every 4 carries.
Exactly. Given everything that the Niners have been going through in terms of criticism,
you guys and us,
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's basically fair to just rag on the coaching staff or anybody else considering how depleted this team has been lately.
Oh, I agree. And going back to the Falcon game, when Kaepernick came in for that 1-2 plays when Gabbert had to go out because he was injured or whatever it was.
It was a concussion.
Yeah,
concussion
I know.
protocol.
Oh, I know.
Concussion protocol.
And then, I don't think he should have came back in. He still was concussed at the rest of the game. But that's another story. But he was 0 for 1, right? And everyone cries, oh, see, he was. But if you relive that one throw, it was on the money. It was on his hands. If the backup tight end catches it, then everyone's like, oh, wow, I forgot how much zip on the ball that Kaepernick puts. I forgot how much of an athlete he used to be, yada, yada. The narrative changes a little bit, I think.
But the narrative kept going because he dropped it and because it's all about Kaepernick sucking at this point.
And it's easier to say that than to be like, hey, Jed York, why did you fire Jim Harbaugh? Hey, Jed York, why did you dilly-dally on this coaching search and just end up hiring Jim Tomsula? Hey, Jed York, do you notice a theme here, guys? Jed York, Trent Baalke. Yeah. But I agree. Kaepernick's been frustrating, but he's proven that if you put legitimate talent around him, he can be an above-average quarterback. He can lead you to a Super Bowl. He can lead you to an NFC Championship game. He can lead you to double-digit wins. Okay. But he needs to be supported.
Now, staying on Kaepernick, I think it's interesting that there have been 2 camps that I've noticed in terms of how good or how bad he either is or can be. Now, on the side supporting Kaepernick, it's just like you said. As long as he has a good running game, a good supporting cast around him, he can be from serviceable to very good.
Yeah.
On the other side, I think a lot of people are starting to think this guy was always just a shotgun / pistol quarterback at Nevada.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of success with the pistol formation during his early years with the 49ers.
Yeah.
Now that opposing defenses have figured it out, he's no good as a passer anymore. Now, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that narrative up to a point.
Okay.
Because, yes, he needs to work on his mechanics. I cringed when he came out with that article about saying he doesn't worry about his mechanics because of one thing or another. Like, my mind exploded. Like, hashtag dead kind of thing, But that being said, Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady in Michigan.
No.
He was a backup. He just happened to be paired with Bill Belichick and a great defense and a great scheme, which hid his non-athletic ability for the first couple of years until somehow he matured into, Captain America, as we call him, whatever it is. But he can be like Ben Roethlisberger or even Dante Culpepper when he was in that 3 to 4 years of being an all-pro. In that he can run, he's big, better yet, almost current, he could be like Cam Newton. It's just you have to take the reins off him. And that last year in the Jim Harbaugh era, it looked like they wanted him to be a pocket passer when he was never going to be a pocket passer. He's not Steve Young.
No.
You know what? He's not Montana. I love you. But he can be Colin Kaepernick. And that's good enough if you can tailor that offense and scheme around his strengths so you can hide his weaknesses.
Now, it's interesting that you say that Colin Kaepernick can be Cam Newton. Because I remember distinctly in 2013 when they went up against each other in...
And everyone knows that is,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I honestly thought that Kaepernick was a better version of Cam Newton.
Exactly.
But now you see where Cam Newton is in terms of where the Carolina Panthers are. He has now surpassed Kaepernick, but only because his evolution has continued while Kaepernick's evolution has stalled.
Yeah, it has been stunted. It grew very, very quickly the first 2 years. And you know what? I've been saying this forever. The worst thing to happen to the Niners and Kaepernick was that record-breaking playoff game against the Packers. It made everyone believe that he was something that he was not. An ultimate weapon, which he can be if you have Frank Gore in the backfield averaging 4.5 yards a carry. If you have Vernon Davis going across the middle, taking linebackers out of the area.
If you have an offensive line
that's crushing.
Yeah.
Anquan Bolden and Crabtree and all the running off defenders, then you only have 6 or 7 in the box. You have 5 linemen, that's 2 against 1, and if you're just 2 middle linebackers that aren't as athletic as Kaepernick, he's going to beat you to the edge. Exactly. That's 15 yards.
Yep.
But no running game. Vernon Davis, basically nothing. And now he's traded, so he's not even here anymore. No Crabtree. Anquan's hurt. A bunch of people that even aren't on that A level, even a B level right now on the offensive line. Then what do you got? You basically have a poor man's Randall Cunningham. And Randall Cunningham's a poor man's Randall Cunningham, for God's sakes.
Oh.
And you can't win that way.
No.
You can't. Because when was the only time Randall Cunningham was a championship caliber quarterback in fantasy and NFL in the eyes of many? That 1 year.
Right? Yeah, Randy Moss.
1 year.
Exactly.
15 in 1 year. Defense. He had pieces around him. A great offensive line. And they said, hey, Randall, don't run so much. Do it to Chris Carter and Randy Moss.
Now, that leads me to this. What will it take for the 49ers to keep Colin Kaepernick? Because everybody's starting to say he's gone after this year.
Wait. You still think we're keeping him?
I'm just saying. Is there any possibility that we keep Colin Kaepernick?
There is, but that's only if you go into the offseason saying we're going to draft weapons for him and give him one more shot. But what I think is going on is the benching, it might be having, take a step back perspective, take a breath, as Tomsula said, so you can breathe, whatever. But I think they're just giving themselves a way out of that contract, out of the last piece of the Jim Harbaugh era. Oh God, I don't want to say they're willing to start over because they think they're smarter. They're the smartest people in the room right now.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And on top of that, they already got their stadium. And as sad as that is, that's the reality of the fact for York and Balky right now. Is I don't think they care about winning. I think that all they care about is how many Rolling Stones concerts can we get to, Santa Clara. I know they're not touring anymore, but you get my point.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. They're not thinking football right now, and that's horrible because I almost feel like we might be in a hole not for the next 2 years, but the next 5 to 10 years. But if we keep Kaepernick and we have a top 5 draft pick and we draft either an elite receiver or an elite tight end, and both of them are in the college game right now, all over the place. Receivers and big body tight ends that can catch and run and block and is versatile, kind of like a Greg Olsen, kind of like a Vernon Davis back when he was an All-Pro, things like that, like a Jimmy Graham type of player.
So you wouldn't draft an offensive lineman with that pick?
Not unless you're going to go to the Big Ten and draft someone from either Ohio State or Iowa or things like that. But we have more pressing concerns than offensive line. That running back from Ohio State, it was Ezekiel.
Ezekiel Elliott.
Ezekiel Elliott. That might be a good tandem with Carlos Hyde in the backfield to take pressure off the quarterback, right?
Yes.
And you go to Notre Dame, their tight end you basically the last 4 or 5 years, Elfrelt and oh my God, I'm forgetting the other guy that just came out of there. But they're putting tight ends into the league like there's nobody's business. Alabama has a great running game and receivers. Clemson. The draft is stock full of players that can support Colin. If you choose to go that way next year. If not, I don't know what we do. Because then you're starting to draft linemen, defensive linemen, things that aren't skill position players, maybe even a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
But there's no game-changing quarterbacks out there. I don't care what you say about Oklahoma State and what you say about Baylor's quarterback and whatnot. Those are not RG3 and, when Whedon came out, everyone's like, oh, Whedon. But it's more Whedon than RG3. And even RG3 is kind of a glass jaw kind of thing. So,
yeah.
I don't know. If you draft Colin, you still need to use him. Mm-hmm. He still has years ahead. Because if you go somewhere else, like say, oh God, I'm just going to pick New England because I hate them so much and they always have good retreads.
Right.
Let's say New England picks him up. Brady retires. And then Belichick basically, the way he does, revamps that offense around him and the running game. You're going to see another all-pro season coming out of him.
And the Niners will rue the day.
Yeah, and they won't get a draft pick or anything. It's not like baseball where you give them a qualifying offer and then, come on back draft pick.
Right.
You're just basically going, oh. And can we afford to do that? No.
Why don't we move on to Jim Tomsula? I know. The thing is, a lot of people have already made their decision on him. And a lot of people just want him gone after this year.
Who do you get, though?
That's the problem, right?
Who'd be willing to come into this mess of an ownership GM group with nothing in the cupboard? I mean, let's look maybe like Bill Parcells, but not him, but that kind of coach.
Right.
But that kind of coach.
Now, see, here's my deal when it comes to Jim Tomsula. I've been a believer since he was first hired. A lot of people thought he was garbage, and it was a garbage hire. And everybody's blaming a lot of the poor performances on the field on Jim Tomsula. But what I gleaned from their latest win against the Falcons was a lot of the players wanted to win for Jim.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of motivation that you need from your coach to your players. And if people don't understand that, I got nothing for you.
I got something else even just more bare bones than that. 1 year does not make a career. You got 1 year. You got a raw deal, a bunch of people retired. 1 year. That does not show what kind of coach you are. You need at least 3 to 5 years to develop your game plan, institute it, and see if it really works. Because 1 year, that's a flash in the pan. Jake Delhomme took the Panthers to a Super Bowl 1 year. He's not a top 10 all-time quarterback, right? No one thinks that.
No.
Is it John Fox? That's John. He was the coach.
That was John Fox's team.
He took the Panthers to a Super Bowl. That actually turned into his head coaching job at the Denver Broncos. Just ask the Broncos. Was he that great of a coach, or did he have 1 good year? Mooch got fired from the Niners after having a good year. Forget a bad year. So so that goes to show you that rash and knee-jerk reactions, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it in the pros.
No.
Even in college, even in high school. That's not how you do it. Don't be that guy, Judge York.
Yeah,
we already hate you as it is for being who you are and ruining the franchise. Don't make us into Redskins West. Which, by the way, the Redskins are looking way better than we are right now. Because you know why? They drafted Kirk Cousins and they weren't afraid to play him. They're not playing Alfred Morris just because they have to. And their defense is coming around. When you're making Dan Snyder look like owner of the year, you're doing something wrong.
Oh, for the love of God. Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now let's move on to their game against Seattle. Okay, so...
Is it on the road? I don't remember.
It's in CenturyLink Field. So that's going to be a problem. This is the funny part. The only thing that I'm really encouraged by is the fact that it's Blaine Gabbert starting rather than Colin Kaepernick. because we've seen Kaepernick's history over his career. Even when the Niners were great, he can't win there.
Although that playoff game, I think, was more on the play calling and the decisions of the plays on stretch.
That's fair.
As opposed to call. But yes, he is undefeated, defeated.
He's winless. He's winless in the regular season at CenturyLink Field.
Blaine Gabbert, if he keeps it close, it's almost a victory for him. Because that last game, I almost called it in my head. We beat the the Ravens, played real close against the Giants, should have won. Mm-hmm. And then everyone was like, ooh, maybe we've turned the corner. I'm like, no, they just set us up to lose 23-3, 30-3, and that's what happened, Exactly I was even upset. I was like, well, I expected that for sure. Yeah. This week, though, I almost feel like we can win a 16-13 game, something like that, because of our defense, the play calling, the ineptitude of Pete Carroll's system that everyone's kind of getting the hang. Just like everyone got to hang out Colin Kaepernick and the pistol, I think everyone's realizing you stop beast mode. Russell Wilson's not Tom Brady. He can't beat you throwing 60 passes.
And another thing, the Jimmy Graham trade has really come home to roost for this team.
I can't believe they know how to use him.
Well, not only that, the fact that they traded away one of the best centers in the league, and now their offensive line is pretty much crap. And that's why they're 4-5.
Yep.
So if the pass rush has improved for the Niners as much as I think it has, especially with Eric Armstead, especially with Aaron Lynch, there's a chance we can get to Russell Wilson enough to where they can struggle on offense and we can keep it close.
I agree. And I don't care what Beast Mode says. I think he's still kind of internally angry at the Seahawks for almost kind of treating him almost second-class citizen style in that contract talks, he's beast mode.
Yeah.
I hate them, but pay the man.
Yeah, seriously. What is wrong with you?
It's weird. It's weird. Paul Allen has so much money, I don't even realize. I don't even know what's going on over there.
Yeah, I don't either.
Couldn't have happened to a better team, though.
But anyway, is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this up?
Niner Nation, be patient, man. I mean, if you're old enough, you've seen the late 80s, 90s. We've had the glory years. We had the Jim Harbaugh era, which is in between all of that and this. Everything's cyclical. Everyone has ups and downs. The Patriots were garbage for 20 years. The Packers went away for a while. Seahawks were an embarrassment for a long time. There's no team other than those Cowboy Niner teams of the 80s and 90s that can sustain a 20-plus year dynasty type of thing. So, calm down. If in 10 years from now, somehow we're still, bitching and moaning about how crappy the Niners are, then we can start worrying. But it's only been about 2 years, really. It seems like a long time.
Yeah. And I've said this before, and I've said this in my blog and my vlog. Unless you have a backup plan to our head coach, our owner, and our GM, if you want to throw these guys out, better have a good backup plan.
You need a plan B. We can't be Roundy Rousey about this and have no plan B and get knocked, knocked in the neck and knocked out. We need a plan B.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: if they beat the Ravens in the Super Bowl, it seems like ages ago now.
Exactly.
No one's even complaining. No. They're like, well, at least we won one, and then, they give them the 7-year window of oh, whatever. But it's because we tasted close to the glory, and it was so bitter of a taste at the end. There's nothing else to do besides complain now.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to hold on to. So just calm down, relax. It's gonna be okay, I promise.
Temper your expectations, people, but we're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it now, but we'll be fine.
Because defense wins championships, and we have a good, young defense on the rise right now.
Exactly.
The offense can be taught. If you remember, I don't know about you, but I remember hearing about the early 80s, late 90s, late 70s Niners. The offensive line didn't know how to fire out because they were passing so much. Right now, they don't know how to drop back because they're firing out so much of running.
Yeah.
They don't know how to pass block yet. Exactly. They're slowly re-educating themselves on being a balanced offensive line. And it's showing.
Yeah.
It's showing. It's just not as fast as everyone wants.
You want to give it time. I think that's the main thing here.
Don't be that fan.
Okay.
Don't be that fan.
All right. I guess that's it. So, thanks a lot, everybody. I'll catch you on the flip side. All right.
Go Niners.
And that was it. So if you've made it this far, congratulations. And I pose this question to you. How do you think the 49ers have been doing so far this season? And how do you think they'll fare against Seattle this weekend? Leave your responses in the comment section below. I'm Paulo Camacho, and this has been the Macho Sports Report. Peace out, sports fans!